Hi and welcome to our webinar on Girls in Technology. And today I've got Helen Sultana from Girl Geek Academy to join us. Hi Helen.
Hi.
And today we're going to talk through really a model, how to use in your classrooms and your school, about how to review what you've been doing with Girls in Technology and try and engage them more. So we'll go through that process. We really want to get your engagement and your feedback and share your ideas through this session. So we've got 4 questions, and we've got a Padlet for each one of those 4 questions, and you can find that in your control panel. If you look down in terms of the handouts, there's a handout there, and so you can engage with us with those questions. So I'm really interested to see what you've been doing in the schools and working through that process. But Helen, how about we get started and we just see what you're doing with Girls Geek Academy.
Thank you. Firstly, hi everyone. So as Martin mentioned, my name's Helen Sultana and I'm from Girl Geek Academy. And Girl Geek Academy are famous for, so our aim is to teach 1 million girl geeks to build technology and create startups by 2025. Big ambition, but we can do it. So we know that, 12, I think it's even 14% now, of engineers are female. And so we're really about trying to encourage women to join the STEM field and have a tech career. So we have various programs. So we have programs for women or adults and also programs for girls. And the creators and why we're unique, so the creators of Girl Geek Academy, our founders, we call them, are all still tech experts. So they're working in their field. So you have Amanda, who is our web designer. She's got a design business and she is somebody who designs everything that you see. Lacey is our games producer. Sarah's our CEO. April is our 3D printing expert, and Tammy works at Dropbox. And so she is over in the US. In fact, she's here now on a holiday, but she's heading back over there, and she's a technologist over there.
Sounds like a really good team to work with.
Yeah. So I, on that note, am the education translator or project officer and technologies teacher. And so my background is primary and secondary, trained and experienced, as well as I used to work for a not-for-profit for 18 months, and it was in a digital technologies and cyber safety program. And then since then, I've been working at Girl Geek Academy, so I started off in January this year, and I'll see it through. And so what I do is I travel around to schools, and I present the Mismakes Code curriculum. And so we train primary school teachers to be able to teach coding, but we develop a game as well. And I also work with secondaries on various different projects as we go through. And I'll tell you a little bit about it.
That's pretty interesting, getting the secondary schools.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? There's common themes that are occurring, and I can speak about those as we push on.
Fantastic.
As I mentioned just then, we run the Mismakes Code program. We not only run it in Victoria, but we also go to places like Brisbane, Sydney, and this is just an image of myself and our CEO, and also the Minister for Education up there, or Innovation, I think. And so we ran a workshop for Indigenous girls, and the great thing about that was, the girls of between the ages of 5 to 8, they couldn't read. One of the girls couldn't read, so Kobe in the grey top there, and she ended up making a game. And so the hope is that these young girls come to our program, and then also they will then choose technology as their career. Mismakes Code is available to come to your school. We also offer free online teacher training. So if anyone wants to sign up for the training, you can head to mismakescode.com, or my contact is there as well. If you want us to come out and speak or present or anything like that, just get in touch with us as well. Teacher training, that's just an image of a teacher training that we did recently at the libraries as well.
So I noticed there's quite a few, it's mixed gender there. So.
Yeah. So we're encouraging men to come along and also to teach coding and game making, as well as females. It's just because it's Mismakes Code. The students can be Mismakes Code, or the teachers can be Mismakes Code. which is quite nice. Aha, alas.
Now this one threw me. I couldn't work out why you had put that one in here. So.
My favourite slide. As so often we get, as you know, Girl Geek Academy, we get, girls, can you just share with us some resources that girls would like? When in fact, girls like what boys like, okay? But we just push girls towards things girls would like, pinks, pretty colours, that kind of thing. And so this was a photo taken at JB Hi-Fi, and it kind of went viral, I suppose. And basically, the employees always got questions about, you know, what games are here for girls, and they'd be like, exactly what's available for boys.
Yeah.
You know, so just keep that in mind, teachers, primary and secondary, that we don't have girl things, okay? Girls like what boys like. We just have to give them an opportunity to go and not form those gender biases as we go along.
Very good point. Right, so we've got our first question for our Padlet. So basically, if you go to that handout, as I mentioned, or the first question we've got is, what are the benefits of doing technology with the girls? And we've already got some people started off.
Yay!
So let's have a look. I know we've got, one of the things was through collaboration, so friendships form. Making girls enables them to tap into their interests, but what else have we got there?
Yeah, so a new one was half the world is women, good one, and we need their perspectives, input into future solutions.
That's a fantastic
Great
idea there. More as female inventors and entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
So more female leaders. What else is there?
Girls love to solve problems.
That's right. Yeah. More
female leaders, fantastic.
I think one of the ones that I had there was just, you know, for fun and enjoyment as well. Don't forget this is emerging curriculum and it's interesting, and obviously you can get a lot of benefit out of just creating, you know, whether you're a boy or a girl. So.
And I think, you know, we create and we make and we invent all the time, right? So it's about taking that offline space onto online and providing platforms where girls and boys can still continue to do the creating, making and inventing, but just on the online. Yeah.
Okay, so we might head back to our presentation. So thanks for those ideas. That was exactly what we wanted, just some feedback from everyone who's watching.
I put this photo on this slide deliberately. So this was from our She Makes Games event, and the idea here is that friendships, and we mentioned that before just with the question, you know, building collaboration and forming friendships is really important for girls.
Yes. And
you know, the women that came here, and even the girls and the uni students, and we also had a few high school students, 95% of them came to this event alone. Okay, so that tells us that there is a real need for a supportive network of people who want to go into the games industry as a female, right? So it must be the same for other industries. I'm sure it would be the same for engineers and that kind of thing as well. And so when we're thinking in a school setting, that's something to remember and think about too.
That's a good point. And here's your lovely model: ask, review, reflect, and do. So
yes.
Talk us through that, Helen.
Yeah, so thinking about, you know, if you do have a problem, which I generally get an email once a week about, saying, Helen, my highest performers are year 8, but then in year 9, the girls just aren't picking the subject. So we're going to use that and go, well, asking, so what's the issue? Reviewing, how does technology look in our school? What are we going to do? And then lastly, it's about reflecting. And has this worked, as we love to go around? And, you know, it's a circle. You can do any of those at any point, I suppose, as well.
I'm pretty sure that a lot of schools have that sort of process where they review their own policies and programs, and so that's nothing new. So let's have a look at, you know, some of the things to do with the technology then. So you mentioned about, you know, what is the problem, how do you solve it?
Yeah. Well, it needs to be asking, and also, you know, not just asking your leadership, it needs to come from a whole staff as well. And then what evidence do we have to support it? So if we think back to the example about girls not choosing the subject, so how do we know that? You know, look at a trend. We love trends and data.
We love data. Everyone loves data.
Yeah. And then thinking about, you know, does it back it up, our perceptions? And if girls aren't engaged in technology. So why? Why is that happening? Ask the girls. They will tell you straight away. You know,
what are some of the reasons that you envisage coming up?
Yeah. Often, well, not often, but sometimes it's the choice. So, for example, this one particular school, it was that robotics and kind of Meccano was being used in a Year 9, and the girls just didn't like it anymore because it wasn't the design and inquiry-based example. Yeah, as well. And then even thinking about, you know, mentors. So who are the teachers as well? Another example is that engineering teachers were teaching the subject, the design subject. So think about how does it look? And then thinking about parents, you know, engaging the parents. So do we have any tech leaders or innovators in our community? A lot of the girls that come to my workshop, their parents work in technology.
So you're saying that in regards to being inspiring the kids and being like role models to work with?
Yeah, real life, tangible people, you know?
Yeah, and also the girls' interests, what are they interested in?
Yeah, and probably the same as the boys at times. And so I chose this particular photo or image as well because I wanted to talk about something that happened at a school. So we got asked, you know, why aren't girls choosing subjects at a later stage after Year 8? And we said, okay, so let's have a look at how you market the technology subject. And we got given a brochure. It was a black and white brochure, and it was all boys in the brochure. And we said, well, okay, I can't, as a female, see myself in this. I can't see myself in this subject. And so what we did was then we printed off some photos, and this was one, and I love a laminator, so I laminated up, big A3, stood on a stool, probably not OHS safe, but I stood up there, blue tacked it on. Next minute, the robotics club came in and said, oh, sir, to the teacher, are you trying to get more girls into technology, you know, with this picture? And yeah, it actually worked. So the outcome was that there is now a robotics team. So sometimes, that are girls, sorry. So the outcome was that there's a robotics team who were girls as well as boys. And in fact, one of the girls who wanted to join robotics before this whole process, she was pushed out of the all boys team. You know, so it could be about just how technology looks,
But also just having that that notion that girls need to identify with whatever program it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that moves us on to the review slide, which is somewhat of what I spoke about. So, you know, thinking about how technology looks at the school, anything that needs to be changed, you know, in regards to marketing, perhaps, you know, teacher skills, those kinds of things.
So just looking at the teacher skills, because you mentioned that just not having one person be the person who's sort of skilled up, but sharing that around. Talk us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it's like the drama teacher. There's this fantastic drama teacher. They come, do an amazing drama performance, and then at the end of the year, they decide to move on, and the whole faculty falls, right? Similar thing. So if you're thinking about technology, let's upskill everyone, and then that way they can then use technology in their specific subjects, say, at a secondary level or a primary. You know, let's demystify what coding means, and let's have an outcome. Let's just not code because we have to code. Let's code because we want to produce a game. Those kinds of things.
And I think we are moving towards that, like in a lot of schools. So that's good.
Absolutely.
The other thing was just about, you know, how does a school know they're going to be successful, or what does it look like when they're successful in terms of engaging girls, and how to sort of getting the data first before we can move on, and just getting that picture about what it might look like.
Yeah, so we can often find successes if you're looking around you, at schools around you, and you can perhaps, you know, tap onto what they're doing if it is increasing the, you know, engagement of girls. Otherwise, you know, things like starting small, so starting to engage a small number of girls and moving on, because often you're at zero, right? You just know you're at zero, or looking at your classroom as well. So I used to be a food technology teacher, and we would have majority of girls in the room, right? So the difference was we had to engage boys. So sometimes you've got to change your mindset, and particularly with teaching, majority are female, right? So thinking about flipping your mindset and what that might look like,
And the other thing was just, it it's about current programs for gender bias. What are you sort of looking at there?
Yeah. So looking at what you're using. So if it's a robot, is it more is it boyish, I suppose? What might that look like? What different providers are coming in if you're having workshops and those kinds of things, and looking at that and how they look in the school. We often work with girls' schools. We do work with both genders as well, but Girl Geek Academy is something as well, and mix it up a little bit. Yeah.
What about so I often know that schools will have like a technology leaders group, and so is that made up of girls and boys, or how does that work? So through that.
And so thinking about that as well, having competitions, and if you have to rig it so there's a girl winner as well, and look, that can work in your favour sometimes. And looking at the technology leaders and making sure there's a balance.
I suppose if you're skilling up the girls as well in terms of the the programs we're doing, we are sort of don't need to rig anything anyway, so be more skilled up. So.
And look, thinking about your teachers as well, how are we role modelling as well? So, we sometimes we get stressed as a teacher and you call the IT guy, right? No, you can fix your problem, okay? And then that's going to tell the girls and the boys that, hey, I can solve my own problems too, and I can build technology as well.
Okay, cool.
Oh, the picture. Should I talk about the photo?
Oh, yep.
So that is myself, and Hung. Hung is the teacher who came along to our teacher training, and that is me in the yellow cardigan. So I took a student workshop at Hung School, and we make the teachers who are involved with us, we make them wear it. And the interesting thing is about the cardigan is young girls then identify us as role models and think that they can be Miss Meg's code, and it's quite nice. So thinking about how technology does look at your school or your space. I'm usually the brightest thing in the school, in the place.
I can understand that. That's very good. Okay, so we've got another Padlet question. So what strategies have your school used to engage girls in technology? So we're really interested in probably things that have worked, and people have been busy already, Helen.
Yeah, good one.
Fantastic. So let them play first is a great suggestion there.
Yeah, and that too, when I deliver my teacher training, I always say, depending on how you are as a teacher, let them have a go and then come back and teach those key concepts, which is great.
Yeah, so some form of exploration or plays.
Yeah.
What about the, obviously, a lot of competitions around the place, so getting involved. I know on the Digital Technologies Hub, if you haven't had a look, there's a lot of student competitions there you can access.
Yeah, and the prizes are pretty good generally.
And good fun.
Yeah.
And,
mentoring.
Yeah, girls-only opportunities if needed, so that's a good thing to consider.
Yeah, I love that too, if needed. Yeah, perfect.
And open-ended tasks with multiple solutions. Yeah, so that whole thing about creativity and having an open-ended problem allows for that. So anything introduced? Yeah, so a lot of schools do like an like a elective type subject.
Yeah.
So it's pairing up girls and boys to attempt tasks,
Yeah, and we can talk more about that when it comes up in a few slides time too, which is great. Choose electives, gaming and coding, First Lego League.
Yeah, so they're all probably things we would consider as things that people are trying. So I think from what I've seen is a lot of schools getting into robotics or coding, those sorts of programs, and it might be just a club to start with, and then they branch out. But you were saying before, like trying to get that into your curriculum. So
yeah. So we were talking about that before we started, and I was saying, if we have a coding club at lunch, how is that saying that we value this subject or we value this skill? So let's try and get it throughout the subject area in primary, or implement new technology in the subject area at secondary. Yeah. Okay. Using senior girls as mentors for younger girls. Yeah.
that's a good one too, isn't it?
Yeah.
And probably even, is there a chance if you've got the local secondary school working with the primaries and just having that, a real opportunity for girls to work with other girls? Seen that work quite well.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for those ideas, and that's been really useful. Let's work into the next part of it. So, is there a significance about this?
Always is.
Image?
Yeah, so this was one of the girls who came to our workshop, and she was actually homeschooled. And she came in and was able to make her game with minimal reading skills, and she was 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what sort of platform do you use to make the games?
Code Studio is what we use, and we also provide a portal for the teachers with all the lesson plans as well. Yeah.
Okay.
This is very, very sweet. So before I mentioned looking at how technology looks and also my yellow cardigan significance,
Yes.
A very funny story. We're in Sydney doing a workshop over there, and I gave yellow cardigans to everyone, including the photographer. And so one of the...
What? Should not have your phone on when you're doing a
No. We needed that side of the start. Please mute your phone, Mr. Richards. That's okay. So basically, we gave the cardigans to even the photographer, okay? And one of the girls asked the photographer a question, and the photographer said, oh, no deal, I don't know. And she said, well, why are you wearing the yellow cardigan? And I yelled out, yeah, she's got a point. So that was very nice and sweet. And so the students that come into my workshops, we do school holiday ones as well, they often think that I miss Meg's code and then can see myself and me as a role model, which is really nice. It was interesting at the She Makes Games workshop last Saturday. A lot of the girls that were there, do you know Sailor Moon?
Yes.
I
hate to say it.
Sailor Moon was a role model to girls, right? Or to the women in the room. So what does it tell you about the role models back way when they were growing up, and myself? Mine was Oprah, so let's have these women in industry being role models. Sailor Moon's great, but, we can move beyond that. Absolutely.
Okay, so we might go back to one of our Padlet questions, and number 3. So basically, what are some common elements of successful programs? And I thought this might be a useful question to put up and to think about, if we looked at some of the successes, what we've been working on, I'm sure there's a lot of things we've been doing in the schools. What is it that really starts to come out that, we need to build on? And we've got the female role models, obviously, so that's come through loud and clear.
Yeah.
Also engaging families, which is a really good point in terms of what parents can contribute.
Yeah, I think upskilling teachers as well. So empowering the teachers to know the technology that they use, and I think that increases the technology. We all have that favourite. It increases girls' engagement. We all have the favourite teacher, right? We all remember them for something.
Yeah.
So let's be remembered for using technology in a quite creative and makey way.
Yeah.
And it's all right if you're having a go and you sit in the hot seat and you're not sure of things as a teacher.
Definitely. I mean, I've just seen their real life situations.
Yeah.
And I remember I talked about whether social issues and that sort of stuff. Does that that sort of part of the program that you should have a look at?
Yeah, so thinking about, the buzzword entrepreneurship as well and being innovative. So looking at perhaps your community and your council and if there's a problem, and what's the problem you're trying to fix and how can we solve it? And then using technology to try and build in the answer. And it might be that the students are calling up the local council to get real answers and then they're really making a change.
Yeah.
I've heard of schools going out to the community. I've heard of one school, primary school this was, going out and offering books to homeless people. So setting up like a library as well, because they realise that homeless people, if they don't have an address, you can't borrow a library book, right? Yeah. So thinking about those kinds of things, which would really engage girls.
And a lot of those things it's about developing empathy for the user. So, basically put yourself in their position and how do I make a difference?
Yeah, and it's more like I used to work at a Catholic school. I've worked at many different schools, and it's more than just helping the poor. Primary kids like to say help the poor, but what can we do to actually make an impact? In secondary as well, there's a lot of outreach stuff that happens, so let's use technology to maximise that.
That were good points. I noticed up there was failing.
Yeah.
Failing is part of the whole deal. Yeah.
But not even failing, but if I failed, give me a chance to give it another crack.
Yeah.
You know, where I find that the schools are so time poor. If you fail, it's okay, but now let's actually work towards a solution. So, you know.
Yeah, continuing on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Creating something that is a future use rather than just learning to write some HTML. I think that's a really good point as well.
Yeah, brilliant.
Moving beyond just skill development, but I think a lot of these questions, these ideas are sort of looking at real world problems, giving us a requirement to use this technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't code like I mentioned before. You don't just write code because you code and you do an hour of code and that's it. We've got that skill. Well, what's the purpose? Just like any writing, any reading, anything that we do, it all has purpose. So that's the same with technology too.
Well, that's some really good ideas there. So thanks again for putting those ideas together. And what have we got next?
That picture does have a purpose.
Okay. Surprise.
So at Girl Geek Academy, we realised, probably a couple of years ago now, that when you Google, women in STEM or STEAM, you get women in the shower. So, we decided to create a whole series of images with myself and also girls and young women and teenagers and that kind of thing, so that when we do presentations like this or when we go out into schools, the girls can see themselves as one of us as well. So that's the significance here of this image.
And is that something like around the schools that teachers can do something about, like promoting girls in, if they're doing robotics and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the boys will quickly pick up on it too. And, it doesn't have to be anything with a high budget. The girls can, or anyone can really go around with their camera and take images. So what I love as well, thinking about visiting schools, is when I'm sitting in the reception, often I'll see like a video, and the video has highlights of each of the areas or subject areas in secondary. Yes. So what's really cool is when there are girls engaged in technology as well.
Yeah, so just being mindful of, having that balance.
Yeah.
Okay, we're up to do.
We're flying, aren't we?
Yeah, we are flying.
So I see Miss Max Code, which is my program, as the first best step for someone who's never coded, right, as a teacher, because it is F to 2. So, thinking about what is the next best step for teachers. When I started teaching in 2010 at my old primary school, and I got wheeled in a whole bunch of laptops. And I got stressed because I hadn't had any PD just yet, but I had this whole series of devices that I had to look after, right? Now, teachers are getting robots and spheros and all this kind of jazzy things thrown in at them. So that would give me a level of anxiety if I was someone who never engaged with it, right? So think about your staff, what they need, or your teachers, and then get them to do that first next best step. Look at your current program. So often I go out to schools and the technology leader program is just the kids plug in the devices or they make sure the numbers are in line at the end of the day in the trolley, right? So think about how can we be engaging and be innovating with these students' skills, and then how they can lead. Okay, not that just they get up at assembly and go, oh, well, we've had this success, this week. It's going to be more than that.
If they were coding, and let's say if they were year 5, 6, they knew how to do loops or they knew how to do branching, that person can be the expert and help out. So
absolutely.
I'm sure a lot of schools are sort of picking up on those approaches and having, that balance of girls and boys doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Guest speakers are great. I would say just mix up your messages, whether or not one year it's a parent, then it's somebody from industry, it might even be an ex-student, an alumni member, depending on where you're at, and really highlighting the skills that are within your community. And I know some schools are restricted based on location, but you can use webcams and that kind of thing now.
No, if you're in a primary school like the year 5, 6 or the year 6 at the end of the year, they have a guest comes in and does the speech, so could be fitting into that sort of program.
Yeah. There are lots of different programs out there like that you can have guest speakers from, or you can go into different settings. I know the National Australia Bank, they do a cyber security one for grade 5, 6s. They also do a work immersion for girls, so you take your 5 or 6 girls into the workplace. Those kinds of things. There's plenty out there. Lots of corporates are getting involved now too.
Yeah. And what about the community forum or panel?
Yeah.
What's that about?
So that comes from a lot of questions that I'm always asked in schools, and often it's a community issue or problem. They're wondering why. So say if you're from rural, if you're from a dairy or farming or agriculture, then it's about looking at who is going to obviously take over the farm and that kind of thing, and then looking at technology and running a panel, because often everybody's thinking the same thing. Well, what's going to happen with technology and who's going to take over? Those kinds of things. Even thinking about different schools as well and how you can network. Having a panel, so inviting back ex-school leaders, I suppose, or getting experts in, or sharing the cost. Yeah. So often you can have a guest speaker out, right? But it's a lot of money. So you can ask other schools to attend and split the cost. Okay,
good idea.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also just looking at programs, obviously might be some sort of redesign or some recasting of the programs you've got and making some changes.
And utilising those experts who are your teachers. So many teachers are inspired and they come running after me when I'm leaving the session going, Helen, we really want to do this, there is more out there, but give them a go to be that leader and to implement something and just take a risk. And a way to do that is, think about your strategic plan for leaders. And if you want something, go and see a leader, get it written into a strategic plan, and then it will happen. Sometimes I hear of things flopping or falling to pieces, and just try and get it in your strategic plan is a 3-year one. Yeah. Get it into that one as well.
It sort of might lead on to our question about blockers and challenges.
Ah, yes, there you go. Unintentional.
Well, do you want to go into those?
Yeah, we'll do this one really quickly. So another part of the doing is looking for resources that are available to you online for free, or there might be a small cost depending on what it is. And also for primary in particular, looking at offline examples. So, you could read these books to your students. Recommended resources that I have are obviously from the Digital Technologies Hub. Another one that I found is DigiPub, so that was really cool, and I know it's Victoria, and I'm sorry for that, but it's basically a scope and sequence of how technology might look through the years, which is really good. Fuse is something, again, it's from the department, so they have a series of resources.
So again, like I think all, different systems will have like a department portal to go and have a look at resources. Yeah.
And also Code Studio is something that's free that we use, that Girlgate Academy uses as part of their Miss Makes Code program, which is a great platform, and that's from K or F or Prep, whatever you want to call it, right through to
the good thing about the Code Studio has little videos, and it sort of explains like every little bit of it that they're working on. So and also we've got the careers magazines. So Refractive Media do those, and we've got them on the Digital Technologies Hub, but they've also do like posters, and I've seen the posters as well, so they're quite good. So all schools get those careers, or secondary I think they are, go to the secondary schools. So keep your eye open for those.
Yeah, and make your own posters. Take photos of your own students doing great things. And something that we mentioned before is thinking about what careers are possible with technology, and it's not that 60% of the jobs that your students are going to have don't exist yet. Well, yeah, kind of, but really it's about industry and how industry tech skills are going to advance. So how can we best prepare our kids for that as well?
And the thinking behind it, the
absolutely
digital literacy and all that comes with it.
Yeah. Can I talk about my books?
You can talk about books.
And I don't get endorsements financially for this. So these are some of the books that I use in my program. And for secondary, you can use books such as Women in Engineering and those kinds of things, or Women in Science, basically. Dot is a really cool, just a cute story, I suppose, about online and offline activity. Which is great. Once Upon a Time Online is fantastic. It was an Aldi score. I found it at Aldi, $5, but you can get it online. And basically, I found this story because every time you say to a student, why should you be cyber safe? They say, oh, because someone's going to catch him and kill you. No. could happen, you know, in 1 in a million or whatever it might be. But this is a really great story about asking an adult, which at F to 2 is developmentally appropriate. So asking an adult before you go online. The most magnificent thing, and this is a book I want to pull out when I'm training my teachers sometimes because they get quite frustrated because they're learning a new skill. And so this is something that I use in midway through the unit, I suppose. If it's a term, if it's a day, it's midway through the day. And it's about perseverance and resilience. And the students can really, you know, identify with that. And so that's why I use it. And the teachers, I say, do I have to pull out the book? Do I have to read it? So
the resilience and persistence is really good if you're doing a lot of programming, is, you know, just to keep going and debug and test it and debug and test it, make sure it works.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now for secondaries too, like I just thought that movie with the NASA scientists that was recently come out, so that's probably a good one for secondary to have a look at, women involved in that. Yeah,
exactly. Name, we'll get that in. Lots out there.
I'm sure people know.
Yeah.
So this one was interesting in terms of what are some of the blockers that, you know, and challenges that people are facing, because obviously, you know, we're interested in looking at what's sort of stopping people from, or being the challenges, and let's have a look at some of the ideas here. We've got girls are hesitant, fear of failing and getting it wrong.
Yeah, and look, that's girls and boys, that's teachers, that's anyone young or old, right? Yeah. So it's about making that safe, supportive and collaborative environment as well for girls.
Yeah, and also it comes up again, that preconception of what girls like, so let's find out what they like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's a good one there, parental expectations.
Yeah, and look, and that's something that we're working on, as well as Girl Geek Academy. That's what we're doing. That's why Miss Max Code is targeted at F to 2. It's because I often hear stories about from librarians or teachers, or that parents bring their boy in to a coding workshop but leave with their girl. Right, so our stuff is, you know, targeting, and our branding, I suppose, is trying to you know, break those gender biases as well.
Yeah, and you know, obviously, if teachers can look at that, the way they're talking with parents and being aware of that process.
Knowing where to start. I think it's just really important that you gather the data and then see what the first best step is for your school. And I'm just saying it's how to start. So you know, I'm welcome to conversations if someone's not sure as well.
And also the old chestnut about funding. So we're trying to do everything on a shoestring. So you mentioned before about having some sort of strategic plan. You know, obviously, maybe using some of the points we've raised today and including that in your strategic plan. But you know, getting some funding. But I know a lot of schools, you know, find various ways to get funding. So there's grants that come out from, if you look on digital technologies, have every once in a while. So through the government. So keep your eye open for those. And it's a very crowded curriculum. That's probably a really important point. So, and it's a new curriculum. So, we have to learn about the curriculum, what's it all about, but also then trying to fit it in. And a lot of the message with primary teaching would be to fit it in with your other subjects where it aligns. So, what's a natural fit for some of these technologies? You know, if we're talking about problem solving and we're talking about game development, you know, does it fit within a narrative? You know, does it fit within creating a story? Does it fit in within a science lesson? So looking for those parts where it overlaps, but definitely, you know, trying to, you know, not add something on top of everything else, but, you know, it's something to consider.
And you know, reliance on certain staff members to be involved in tech. I get that. My thing is, and it's interesting because all the schools I've worked at, the IT person is generally a male. So imagine the pressure, you know, coming into a school as a male, you're already the only one there, or part of, maybe three there. And so, suddenly they're then thrust into the ICT role. But somebody else is waiting on the sidelines who would have been perfect for the role. And what I know in industry as well and in schools is often women won't go for that role. Okay, they look at the job description and they go, no, I don't have everything here. Whereas the guy goes, I've got part of that. I'll give that a crack. I'll make up something. And guess what? They're in that role. So if you're someone who lacks confidence, just, you know, get in there. And I have seen an increase in principles as women and leadership, which is really great as well. But, you know, get out there. Not enough women are applying because we think we don't have the skills. And the guys don't either. Parents ask me, what will you teach my daughter that they can't learn online themselves? That's interesting. My thing for that would kind of be, I guess it's a Q&A now, isn't it? Would kind of be, well, what's the child doing at home that the parents overseeing? Or, you know, maybe ask the parent that. So, okay, well, what is your child doing? You know, what are you teaching them, kind of thing as well, because that's interesting.
I mean, to me, that was a positive. If they are trying to learn online and bring, you know, like that's what we sort of say about the programming, you know, go away and, you know, if it's a scratch program and they're doing it at home, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you're just building on those skills, and to me that shows that person's got an interest. So
yeah, good point. Yeah, social learning. Yeah. Look, it can be collaborative online. There are all different things that you can do now. You can play games and play with your friends online.
The message there about Minecraft and the griefing, anti-griefing. We have some resources on the TT Hub about one of the schools that was doing Minecraft, so it raises that problem there in terms of the boys not being sort of worried about it, but basically girls taking obviously, you know, suffering on that one. So do you know anything about the griefing, anti-griefing?
Yeah, no, not a lot.
We do have some resources on that in the DT Hub under, I think it was Fitzroy Primary School. So if you want to have a look at some of that information. And it's dealing with griefing, yes. So Michelle's just pointed out to me.
And look, I think too that for young girls who are interested in the games that, you know, boys might play and might have a lot more players than them, in terms of the gender balance, find the girls, find your squad, you know, find the girls that are going to play with you, and, you know, and meet that, you know what I mean? Like, not meet, but match the boys, I suppose, in that. Suddenly, if 2 or 3 girls is playing Minecraft, then it's not that bad that you're the only one, right? The boys going to go, oh, it must be what we do. Now, there was a mention there about the grants there. I know we did have a small bucket of money, or the government had a small bucket of money, and they only went to 50 schools, but I think about 1,700 schools put in for it. So, you know, again, not ideal, but, you know, I think the government's working towards getting money out to schools where possible. Anything else? One about that reliance on certain staff members to be involved in tech. So, you know, there's obviously people who've got the interest in it, so it's really developing that skill base, isn't it? Yeah, and I think it's about asking and letting, you know, as leaders, you're not a mind reader. So if you want something, perhaps ask for it. If you have asked and you're not receiving it, then look at the bigger picture. Is this school for me? Perhaps is there opportunity? I know for me, I've left schools because there was no growth for me. I had to grow beyond what the school was offering, and that's no one's fault. It's just where I wanted to go. So a difference now for me as well, being in the tech startup space in education, and then education is, I never really thought about my career progression as a teacher. So that's interesting. So if you want to, you know, say you're a classroom teacher and you want to progress as an ICT leader, look at what professional development is for you. There's lots online as well that you can be doing, and then take that to your principal and be like, this is what I've done in my own time. How about we try and implement this? You know, you can go around it in that way as well. Yeah, so obviously that professional learning and knowing, you know, what you want to sort of try to achieve. Yeah. I don't know if you heard about the CSCR MOOCs, but that online course, they're excellent in terms of just generating some of that knowledge as well. Yeah. As well as your program. I won't plug it again, but I'll plug it later. Okay. Thanks. So once again, some good points there. Significance of the photo, we have to keep it consistent. Yes. So again, this was just the workshop that I did in Brisbane for the girls. Kobe again was the standout. She in fact couldn't read, but the great thing about the Code Studio platform is that it has a play button and it reads you the instruction, which is really, really cool to have. These students were F to 2, so 5 to 8 years old, and often when I do workshops, it's an opportunity for like a minister to come out, which in fact it was, but it's also an opportunity to showcase some technology. So we had a Now robot come out and do a little dance, and the guy who brought him in, sweet guy, he brought the robot in, and the girls just went for the robot. So that was really engaging. And as soon as I thought to myself, oh great, this robot's trump me. They're going to forget all about coding, and I'm going to go home and they're just going to talk about the robot, right? And so as soon as the robot finished, the girls go, hey Helen, can we code? Now they saw a purpose, okay, for coding, as well as their game, but we weren't there yet because it was midway through the day. But it proved to me that when you have a purpose for something, they're really excited and engaged. And I kept making up challenges for them after that, and they were just exceeding my expectations again and again. And I was lucky. The minister was there, and she said, "Oh wow, that's fantastic." I went, "Yes, it is." So that was a very heartwarming story from that.
That's good. So reflecting time. So when you've obviously implemented your program, we're reflecting to see what was the impact.
Yeah, so if you're at a school, obviously you've thought about, what's happening, what's not happening. You've done one small thing, and now you're saying, well, what's the impact? What's the change? For us at Girl Geek Academy, it's a measure of students and also teachers that we're training, and also a level of engagement in our events as well. So for you, it could be like the robotics club, that now you have a girls robotics club. It could be all different things for your school, so having a look at it as well.
Yeah. Could also be, us, obviously in the secondary school, our students, girl students, choosing those tech-based lessons and programs. Yeah,
exactly. And measuring, so capturing the data, remembering to capture the data before and after the fact as well.
That's the thing, isn't it? Getting that baseline data. A lot of schools are doing, good at doing that. So basically, we've come through full circle. We've gone through that process. Do you see schools obviously going through that process when you're visiting?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the time it's with our help, and the answers are quite obvious. If I go back to the robotics teachers or the engineering teachers and the posters, it was, oh wow, it was that aha moment. It is happening. It's not a personal thing. It's just what was going on. It was the trend. So yeah, it is quite powerful in doing that. And I find that if you have support from your principal, then it can happen at a greater scale.
And is it somewhat just about raising awareness about what's going on in schools?
Yeah, absolutely. And checking in with the Joneses down the road and seeing what they're doing in the school down the road too.
Sure, no worries. And on to our next.
Oh yes, sorry about that. My clicking. So as I mentioned before and throughout, something that we're working on or have worked on is the Mismakes Code curriculum. And so we've chosen the 9 most, I guess, important concepts, coding concepts, and we've developed an online training resource that can be free for teachers. So if they head to mismakescode.com, they go to PD training. Under that, you've got the prompt to go to face-to-face training, which I'm training all over national, so I'm going to Brisbane soon, Rockhampton, and also I'm going to RMIT, Digital Teaching and Learning Victoria, so you'll find all those dates there. The key thing though is we're government subsidised, so we're being federally funded, so the teacher training for free is online now because it's government subsidised, so as of March it won't be, I don't think, anymore, but yeah.
So if they hurry up they can get online.
Getting fast, as cheesy as that sounds.
Well, that's good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
And I think we did promote that through our e-news, and also it's on the DT Hub. So if you want to find out any of the events that Helen's been talking about.
And I think too, the best thing for me, and being a teacher and a primary as well experience, so knowing that all the resources are there. So that wonderful sticker that Martin is wearing is part of our branding. So our posters on there, so there's like glossary posters and the resources you will need to be able to teach coding through game making. But tomorrow, if you basically go on, get all the resources and you can go with it. That's how we've designed it as well.
Sounds excellent.
And if you want to get in contact with me, schools at Girl Geek Academy, or follow me on LinkedIn. It's not weird. Okay. I used to think it was weird, but it's not. Yeah. So at Girl Geek Academy, I've spoken about a tech startup. We are a tech startup company, and our 5 founders are all still working in the technology space. We believe that you don't have to take a woman out of tech to encourage more women in tech, right?
Yep.
Yeah, pretty simple. So we also run events, and we run hackathons. And this is applicable to schools, I think, because you have your hipster, your hacker, or your hustler. So the ingredients to a technology startup company are having 3 of those people and working together as a team, right? Collaborating. So at your school, you have a hipster, you have someone who is into design, and let's talk about it from a games lens, right? So if you want your students to make a game, you've got your hipster who's going to do the game design. They're going to look at the landscape, the character, what they look like, that kind of thing. Your hacker who's going to write the code. And then you're going to have your hustler, who is someone who markets and tries to get some funding for your game, say, if we're in a real life setting, but if you're in a school, it might look a bit different. But they're the person that's going to promote and be the CEO generally of the company, right?
That sounds like what I'd like to do.
Yeah, exactly. And so, look, you can be, even your teachers can be any of these things, but generally, your students are one of those. So we do run hackathons for adults, but that's not to say you can't run one in your school using these concepts to, liven it up a bit. Yeah.
Sounds like I like that mix of the 3 different groups.
Yeah, and that's often what people in business do, right? We're talking about technology, but in business, you hire the best people in their chosen field, right? So I was going to make another point on that. And yeah, for primary and even for secondary, if we're thinking about career progression, you don't have to be a jack of all trades. If you have a student who's excelling in one of those things, then we can steer them towards a career in design or art, but it can be using technology.
So I know, like, one of the things as a teacher, I would look at that and think, oh, they should be a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of this, but not always.
No, it's quite disheartening. Yeah. Not being good at anything. Hello, my team. So this, I just want to highlight the key people and put more of a face to the name as well in our company. So Sarah is our CEO and extraordinaire, marketing extraordinaire, I suppose. You'll see her in the media a lot. She actually is on a plane tomorrow to Lisbon. She's going to speak at a gender equality conference, which is really cool in technology. Amanda's our designer who designs everything you see, including that lovely ask, review, problem-solving approach model. Lacey is our games developer, and then you've got Steph, who is our success manager, who's working for us in our community. I just wanted to highlight Tammy firstly because she doesn't appear in that photo because she wasn't here last week. She was in the US. And also Lindsay. So these are real people. We're all real people working in a tech startup company. But firstly, Tammy, she was a teacher. She is an pro skateboarder. I get told to say that because it's really cool. As well as, working and being a trailblazer, I suppose, over in the US. You hear about Silicon Valley, she makes Silicon Valley real for me because she's over there working there. And dreams come true. You can go to the US, you can have a technology career at Dropbox, which is what Tammy did. Lacey is our producer at League of Geeks, and she's also a co-founder. They're both our co-founders, and she's kicking goals in the games industry, which is really cool. Really cool to know someone and to be a part of their company. So this is what we want to aspire our girls to be like. Yeah, Sailor Moon's good, Oprah's great, but let's have a Melbourne, story, and let's get that story out there as well.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
And that's come to our end of our webinar. So thanks, Helen, so much for taking us through that. And I think that model of, that you've taken us through about how to review your program and have a look at what you're doing and just be mindful of some things that can be done. I'm sure there's a lot of things you're doing in the schools, judging what the ideas were already that people have been considering. So hopefully the webinar gave them a few more ideas and what to look at, and obviously that idea of training and skilling people up in the school is obviously part of that process. But again, if you're looking for any resources on the DT Hub, if you do a search on Girls in Tech, there'll be quite a few resources that come up. and also we've got a topics page with girls in tech. So there's 2 points of interest to go and have a look at there. This is our last webinar for the year, and
yay! Yay!
Good for us. So
glad I made it in.
That's right. We're working on a scope and sequence, so that'll be ready for the end of for the start of next year. So keep your eye open for that, and that'll be basically from F to 10, and looking at all the different sorts of topics that you might want to work through. So one of the questions was, where do I start? Again, if you're sort of not sure where to start, obviously in terms of the whole digital technologies curriculum, that scope and sequence would be a great place to start. But again, for today, thank you very much for attending and participating and sharing those ideas. So it's always great to get another perspective from people who are watching and actually doing the work in the classroom. So thank you very much. And Helen, thank you, and we'll hopefully see you again.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot.